my paper.
But I think I had one of the best weekends I
Oh,
done
God,
had in
bro.
a minute.
Even though, bro, I got accused of fucking somebody down. Yes.
Did you do
No,
That is the
I
time
couldn't, but then I know.
That's right. There's a
Oh, yeah.
Halloween playlist.
Was he not at
The
the
Halloween playlist. We'll try to get in the mood, the Halloween mood all week long. How about that? That sound good?
Jeez.
So what you have in front of you, hey, phones up.
I'll put it up.
Multiples of you are going. You trust an Allen with your phone?
I'm
Just
saying.
because I'm a beamer?
Nope.
Yes.
Because you might stumble and fall and like it falls out of your hand and breaks.
He got
Dude,
no
I
soccer
play
feet.
soccer.
He don't fall.
Yeah, that's it. That's you. Soccer, you deal with your feet, not your hands. All right, you guys always take them.
If someone touches you,
Who wearing tie-dye today? What my tie-dye is at?
Oh,
Let's see it. Oh, pants.
kinda.
Andrew,
Hey.
okay. Alan, let me see it. Don't think so.
I kinda do.
How about this? If you participate in the theme of the day, I'll throw a couple of daily bonus points at you
And you know it's
today and the rest of the week. Okay, I'm announcing this right now. Come on, lick my egg, man. I'm announcing this right now. If you participate in the theme of the day, I got my outfits already planned out for the whole week. I will throw you 3 daily points into your bonus points category for every participation day. So 5 days participation, that's 15 bonus
What
points.
week is it?
Red Ribbon Week, which means don't do drugs. For those of you that have ever been in school, you should know that Red Ribbon Week means don't do drugs. What I'm saying is, if you participate in the theme of the day, today is tie-dye, and I've already got my stuff planned out for the whole week. I'll throw you 3 bonus points, daily bonus points. It might be super helpful to some of you. So just yet another free opportunity that I bet some of you are going to not take me up on. Unfortunately.
What's
Wait,
tomorrow?
wait.
Andrew and Tyler.
Saturday when I'm coming home from weight loss, just got I stopped by the fresh foods and some guy did a jar of alcohol in my pocket.
in your pocket.
Yeah.
Andrew, so I'm gonna draw the line and say that's not something we need to talk about in class.
I got a question.
Cool.
Did
You gotta know what's appropriate and what's not.
What's tomorrow?
I'm looking. I know as soon as I said that you're gonna ask tomorrow. Ooh, this is good one. Tomorrow is wear camo and join the fight against drugs and bullying.
I'm automatically going to get 3 points.
Nate's already there. Tyler, you got some camo you can put on?
Yeah.
Got some camo you can put on. Chris, welcome to class. Thank you for putting the welcome back. Thank you for putting the pass back. Tomorrow, camo. It's easy, right? Participate. I'll throw you some bonus points.
I need 15.
I don't know if I got any
Let me tell you about my weekend. I always ask about yours. Let me tell you about mine. I had this big aha moment. I realized that I see history everywhere. And some of you have said before, you're like, man, why you read so much? What do you mean you stay up till midnight reading history books and blogs and whatever? I see history everywhere, and I want to tell you what I saw this weekend. Now, the reason I see history everywhere is because I've read it, because I've studied it, because I've embraced it. I would have missed these little tokens. I would have missed these little isms if I wasn't a student of history. So I'm going to show you how if you pay attention in class, you too can be a student in history and you can see history everywhere. So here's what we did this weekend. We traded in my wife's car and we got a new one. But in getting a new car, now it's a new used car. Buying this used car, we legit bought our car from Batman. Can't make that up, right? They were having Halloween day at the car dealership in Statesboro, and we bought our car from Batman. Tyler, what is it that you said? We bought a car from a Ford dealership, and they happen to recognize history just as much as I do, and they have Henry Ford quotes plastered all over the dealership. And this one, in this little office we happen to be in, I like that quote. The farther you can look back, the farther you can look ahead. Henry Ford. Pretty good quote. Here's a picture of, so what enabled this car to be purchased in the first place?
That it was back.
I should say made. What enabled this car to be made in the
Assembly
first place?
line.
Assembly lines and
Money.
Oh,
Money to
different N-word.
Wait, what?
Mass production. So Henry Ford's assembly lines and mass production lead to this vehicle being produced in the year 2021. If Henry Ford in the early 1900s had not been the inventor and visionary that he was, I wonder if this photograph, my family would be standing before a mass-produced assembly line vehicle today. Now, you can see the Joker got in on the action as well. It was a fun day at the Statesboro Ford dealership. They were having fun for sure.
The one day swap.
What enabled my family to be able to buy this vehicle?
You get money.
Money. What about money did we talk about?
Insurance.
Enabled people to spend a little bit more freely.
Credit.
Consumerism and lines of credit.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you, we made a responsible adult decision. We traded in and we paid down pretty heavily. But we still took out a little line of credit. And I don't say this as any type of a family brag of us buying a car. We had to take out a line of credit for my vehicle. So in my quick little trip to the Ford dealership, I have reminded myself about Henry Ford. I caught some cool quotes on the side of the wall. I'm thinking about assembly lines, mass production, and I'm even reminded of lines of credit being significant in purchasing large items starting back as early as the 1920s. My brain can even unfold it more to the stock market crash and runs on banks and ultimately the Great Depression. All of this came from our little walk into the Statesboro Ford dealership on a Saturday. Here's that quote again. The farther you look back, the farther you can look ahead. If that doesn't speak to a student of history, man, I don't know what will. The farther you look back, you got to understand history in order to look forward and be a visionary. So Henry Ford. Now, it didn't stop there. It still didn't stop there. When we go back to the finance lady, remember it is still it's Halloween day. What do you think she was dressed as? Just take a guess. Marilyn Monroe would be a fair guess.
Superwoman.
Huh?
That girl from
Superwoman, right? She was dressed as Lucille Ball or I Love Lucy.
Oh my God.
That's not her. I didn't get a picture of her. That would have been weird. But she was dressed as Lucille Ball, I Love Lucy. And we are about to, we're not quite there yet, we're about to talk about the advent of television and how it contributed to a shared national identity. So because I was looking forward at our vocab terms, I know that her costume of I Love Lucy fits pretty squarely into our future conversations as well. So student of history, I'm able to see these things around me. And then, speaking of lines of credit, right, she was the financer one. She said, and Mr. Swanson, Mr. and Mrs. Swanson, your first payment will be due on December 7th. To which I said, aha, a date which will live in infamy. So just a little Swanson anecdote from the weekend to show you that history really is all around you.
So
You really can look at the world with the eyes of a historian and start to see these stories come together. And it's not Henry Ford in 1908 anymore. It's Henry Ford who produced the car that I bought this weekend.
Oh, that was this weekend?
And that's my story.
So you telling me the one time Swanson dressed normal, everybody else
The one time Swanson dressed normal. So we were in Statesboro because of the middle school cheerleading competition. It just so happened my wife, so let's get into the internet and stuff like that, right? My wife was looking on the internet. She's been browsing cars. Speaking of lines of credit, used cars are worth more now than they were a year ago. So we actually made money after having driven the car for 30,000 miles. That's extra. Point is, we're in Statesboro. We're not usually there. Hey, let's check out the dealership. Wow, this is a deal we can't pass up. Bada bing, bada boom. Henry Ford gave us money. We left with a full tank of gas. We were not leaving without a full tank of gas. All we did this weekend was save money, is the way I like to look at it. So, just a little personal story to show you how history is all around you. I bet you could start to do the same thing if you open your eyes and think like a historian everywhere you go.
I'm half one.
We have just finished Unit 4 of how many? 5. We have finished Unit 4 of 5. That means right now, Monday, our feet are standing in Unit 5. This is our last unit. Oh, snap is right. I like that reaction. Let me harness that energy, make sure it's going in the right direction. What has our class motto been all semester?
Paddle hard.
Paddle hard. Because take it back to my summer vacation when the surf instructor said, all right, man, put into this wave and paddle hard. And the anecdote is that my arms were tired. My shoulders were strained. But he said, all right, bro, paddle hard. And I knew at that moment that had to be our motto for our class as well. We got to paddle hard. So here we are at 5 of 5, and we can't let up. We're not at that relax yet, okay? We're not glide. We don't get to fall back into the surf just yet. We got to paddle hard all the way to the finish line. So I'm glad you remember that. Now, let me put on my stern face for a second. There have been numerous zero replacement opportunities recently. Those of you that took me up on those, go ahead and give your personal testimony. Raise your hand if your grade has gone up recently because of some zero replacement opportunities.
I know.
I don't know.
Now, those of you that have not taken me up on that, it's not the same as getting a zero, right? Actually, I'm trying to help you guys out. It's not the same as getting a zero, but man, you missed an opportunity to replace a zero. That study guide from pre-test, I think I got you guys know what it looks like. I think I got like 4 out of 17, okay? And the hands that just raised are the hands that went up by 1.5, 2.5 points because I replaced a 0 with a 97 or 98, or most of you got 100. 4 or 5 of you that worked out for. But I'm scolding the rest of you that didn't take me up on that, okay? I really don't know if I'm going to keep throwing these opportunities out there if only 4 or 5 of you are going to take it up for it. Now, Madeline is grateful to the end of the earth right now. She's passing this class. Several of you, Nate, he already thanked me. When he said, whatever you did in my grade, I said, son, I didn't do anything in your grade. You did it. Nate is passing this class. So I want to applaud several of you who are who've crossed the pass mark for the first time this semester. What a time to be passing, right? At the end.
For real.
To be passing. But I'm scolding some of you for not taking me up on the opportunities. I don't know what else. I don't know what I have on the horizon, to be honest. But if I throw out some more bonus or 0 replacements, darn, you better not miss it. Capiche? Capiche? What else I got? All right, let's talk about future tests. So we're in Unit 5. We have the Unified Benchmark coming up 2 weeks from now. Unit 5 is called Post-World War II to the Present, so we can put our brains inside of that chunk of time, post-World War II, all the way up to President Obama, y'all, right? We're actually not going to talk President Trump in terms of the test. Of course, we know he's the president, but we're going to talk all the way up to 2008, President Obama. That's a chunk of time we got to cover. How much time do we have to cover it?
2 weeks.
10 class days, and then the 11th day is the test day, okay? 5 days this week, 4 days next week. If you don't know, you got Monday off.
We do.
5 days this week, 4 days next week. And then we have the next Monday, which we will review and test on next Tuesday. Okay, so this week, next week, and then the Tuesday of.
I thought we were out a week.
Huh?
I thought we were out a week.
That's in Thanksgiving.
That's in November.
Wait,
Not quite there yet.
We don't come back Monday?
So this next Monday is a day off. That's
Oh,
what,
it's
hang with me.
Sunday.
Hang with me. Get ahead of me. Hang with me. That's your unified benchmark. That will be the Illuminate test that you have grown accustomed to. You know how to listen in class better. You've proved it. You know that these flashcards matter. You are studying them. You know that Look It is fun, but also helpful. You're taking it seriously. That's good. We got that test in that style coming up on November 9th, okay? We will also have one final test grade, and I'm calling this an at-home project. That means we will not work on it in class. You are equipped for it, okay? It is going to be, I'm not going to give all the deals right now, but I'm going to have you do a report on a single topic of your choosing, now class topic, but a topic of your choosing. My hope is that it will get you to dig into that one topic. So let's just take a real simple one, the Emancipation Proclamation, right? You're going to do your report on the Emancipation Proclamation. Hopefully that means you really lock that one in your brain. Might want to choose something that you need to grow on a little bit, right? So if you're going to do a report on it, you're probably not going to forget it. I can remember reports I did President Richard Nixon in 5th grade. I dressed up like him. Are you even surprised? I remember President Nixon because I did a report on him. My point is I'm not giving you all the deals on this grade just yet, but it's going to be worth the test grade. It will be assigned after the benchmark, okay? So we're only going to focus on the benchmark up to that point, and then it will be due before Thanksgiving break. And the way that actually falls, that gives you, I think, 9 days. 9 days to do this at-home test. Y'all, an at-home test means it's on you, your time, your effort. You don't have to have things memorized because you have your notebook. You don't have to worry about phrasing because it's your own writing, okay? Don't mess this up. It should be, now I'm not saying it's a free 100, but it should be an easy A. Don't mess this up by not doing it. I'm trying to assist you right at the end here, not hurt you. Madeline.
So I can do Abe Lincoln?
I'm gonna roll out a list of topics. I'm gonna hone it in a little bit more than just Abe Lincoln. And it's gonna be related to potential EOC topics. So again, Emancipation Proclamation is a pretty good example. That's honed in a little bit, not just Abe Lincoln. Yeah, so I will give you the list. It will be broad enough that you can choose something of your preference, okay? Good question, good question. Designed to be an easy 100. Don't mess it up by not doing it. What else I got? Okay, let's talk EOC then. EOC stands for what?
End of course.
End of course,
Oh,
right? If we've been saying this whole time and you don't know that, well, now you do. EOC, end of course. It is what it says it is. It's a test at the end of the course. This is not Swanson's test. This is not Miss Williams' test. This is not Bacon County High School's test. It's not an Illuminate test. This is a Georgia test. Okay, this is the Georgia final test, mandated by Georgia. It's a graduation requirement. I mean, maybe we should have had this speech earlier on, but let me give it to you now. Like, this stuff matters. What else I got? By the way, your EOC scores help Alma. Now, I don't want to spin this the wrong way. I don't want any of you jerks to be like, I'm not helping Alma. Your EOC scores help this town because businesses look at Alma, Georgia and say, how's that local high school doing? Whoa.
Don't we have the lowest
Them
high school?
U.S. history test scores are not very good. We're going to go plant our business in Baxter or Waycross or Atlanta or Jacksonville. Fill in the blank, right? Legitimately, not to get like too big picture here, but I got friends who work in the city. I go to church with a couple guys that work with business development. My statement here is your test scores influence whether businesses come to Alma or don't.
So that's why we have.
Business is money, jobs is in.
That's what that
Where they
says.
gonna put it at?
Real
Oh,
talk,
there's
real talk.
plenty of land, but
So that's real talk,
So they
right?
can put a Popeyes
We want to be horns up, go Red Raiders, rah, 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 school spirit. You know how you can actually help your city the best is by doing well in this EOC. Okay, hey, don't lose me. Everyone's an economist all of a sudden. You can help your city by doing well in this EOC. So if that drives you, good. If you're a jerk who doesn't want to help your city, you need to pray at night or something like that. Here's one that you should care about. This is legitimately 20% of your class grade. That is determined by the school board, not Swanson. Swanson didn't say, ha, 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 let's make this 20%.
You said,
Okay,
ha, ha, ha.
I literally can't affect this. When I type it into the book, the grade book, it is already adjusted to be 20% of your final
so
grade.
that means your overall grade in here only counts for 80% of your final grade that you will get in here. 80% is gonna be this grade, 20% is gonna be your test, and together that's gonna give you what your average will be
So
for
if
this
you have,
class.
if you have like a 70 in this class and you make like a 65, say on the test.
You could very well fail the test, the
That's
class.
right. That's right. If the best thought is to make your current average. Guys, let's try to make your current average or better. Right? Don't play that game about if I'm 2, 3, 4, 5 points off, will I pass?
No,
Your goal should be to make your average. And if I've taught you well, and I really believe we have, if we've taught you well, then you are capable of your current average. Right? That is a good. Now, some of you think all the way back to August, that very first test that everybody hated.
The one everybody
That one's probably dropped because we do drop the lowest test grade. 2, make that thing old news by doing better now, right? Make that old test that you got 55 on, make that a thing of the past by doing better now. Finish
And I
strong.
would say
Finish
you
strong.
need to have at least some cushion room here, and that's what he's getting at. You need to have at least a 75 or higher in this class to have some cushion room, okay? So that's not where you're at, then I encourage you by doing all the things you can do in this class to get it there, okay?
So that has all been a setup for why this last unit and this drive towards the EOC really, really matters. You know, we started off with funsies. We started off with the confetti cannon and Captain America. We were on the deserted island. We had some downs by figuring out tests and vocab and whatnot. We are on the up and up. Okay, your final test average, your unit 4 was awesome. Crossed some of you into passing for the first time, like I've already said. We're on the high. We got the high ground. Let's keep the high ground, right? Military always wants to keep the high ground. Let's keep the high ground. To do that, what I'm going to do right now is let's talk about some of the questions you missed that you probably shouldn't have. Right? Grumble, grumble, grumble. I'm going to cry if I click save and it was a 67. Grumble,
Okay, we
grumble, grumble.
did it.
Listen to me.
It was a
Let's
68.
real talk. Haha. I got you. Let's talk about some of the questions you missed that you shouldn't have. These are screen grabs from Illuminate. No names associated with it, so you can't. There's no way to know who this came from. I'm going to show you what the student picked. We're going to read the question. We're going to read the options. I'm going to tell you probably why that student picked that, and then I'm going to tell you why the student shouldn't have picked that because it's the wrong answer. But hopefully you'll see it more, so that when you get back into the test again, guys, this isn't about memorizing specific answers. It's about walking your brain through the process. So hopefully you'll be able to walk through this process a little bit better in the future. Here's the first question. What was one of the biggest changes to the U.S. labor force that occurred during World War II? So first things first, this legitimately came out of my mouth during the review. And the answer that I like danced around and like stomped my foot on and gave you all the winks
I think this was me.
was women. Women, right? Biggest changes to the labor force, women joined the labor force. Now, this student right here picking A, employers were required to pay men and women. Women, ring, ding, 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 ding. The person saw women, and this is more than one of you. If you selected this, you got distracted. You picked the distractor. But so let's read the whole thing. Required to pay men and women equal wages for equal work. Do men and women make equal pay to this very minute?
No.
Right? It's a battle we're still in, and certainly we were in it in the 1940s. That's not the right answer. Let's go through this one. New labor restrictions, reduction in child labor. That's not where we're at. Occupational Safe and Health Administration was founded. Did I say these words ever?
No.
Right? No. So even if that's a true statement, right, OSHA, I didn't teach it. It's not your answer. So therefore, the percentage of
And your
women employed.
connection in this question should have been number one, World War II, labor force. So you said, okay, so women were a big part of being able to make the ammunition and the guns and sew and do all the things that they were able to do during this time. So they saw them as a benefit, as a way that they could help them in the labor force. And so, yeah, the percentage of women employed grew significantly because they saw the purpose of women, that they could actually go to work and do these things outside of just being a Susie homemaker.
So will you see this identical question? Should you memorize this?
Probably.
No, you will not see this identical
You
question.
need to make those connections.
But you will walk yourself through this process again, I guarantee it. Whether it's about women in World War II or some other topic, you will be asked to walk yourself through this process. All right, let's keep on keeping on. There was a public backlash against President Hoover's response to the Great Depression. Why was there a public backlash? Students selected this one, his refusal to issue loans to struggling businesses. Correct answer, his refusal to provide direct financial relief to citizens, i.e. individuals. That's the distinction. You got, refusal is do nothing. He's a do nothing president. They both say refusal. These two are plan and plan. Plan to pack the court, not Hoover. Plan to expand executive power, not what we're talking about. What I need you to know is that Hoover affected individuals, not businesses.
And remember, this was a time during when most people, they were living in shacks type situations, wages were not good. So of course, when they were going through the Depression, they lost their money. What did they want? They wanted some financial relief. And that should have been that connection to the Great Depression and losing that money, was the fact that, yeah, he was a do nothing president, okay? But they wanted that financial assistance, and he refused to give it to them.
Now, here's what I'm glad about. I'm glad you didn't pick pack the court,
Yes.
right? That would be like, wow, we don't even know what we're talking about.
You narrowed it down.
You narrowed it
perfectly.
down, but our conversation here is helping you get all the way to the right answer. What significantly increased consumerism in the 20s? So consumerism, you're rolling through your brain exactly what that definition is. 20s, roaring, stock market crash at the end of it. Okay, my brain's in the right place. Let's just go straight through. A very low level of wealth inequality led to a growth in the middle class. Well, no, not a middle class question. Women entering the workforce allowed companies to produce more goods. Women, workforce 20s, doesn't go together. Here is the student's answer. Aircraft greatly reduced the cost of transporting goods across the country.
I think this was me.
Even if that's an accurate statement, that's not what we talked about, right? That's not the big connection. Here's the correct answer. The expansion of credit, bing, 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 allowed people to purchase expensive items.
And if you go back to Henry Ford, the assembly line, all of that stuff, remember us talking about that, it increased that consumerism. Remember, we are consumers. We like to buy a lot of things, and it wasn't just about wanting them, it was about needing them now. And they needed the transportation, they needed the washing machines and the dryers and the refrigerators and this types of thing. And we talked about specifically having to have that credit and the expansion of credit to be able to do that. So making that connection of consumerism, we buy a lot, credit is needed to buy, should have been the way to lead you to that answer. So
All right, this next one, all but. gave you the answer in the review that you probably did, that we did 7 minutes before you took the test, right? And I got to toe the line of not giving you the answers, right? I know the test, but I can't teach you the exact test. But yet, on this one, I almost gave you the answer. We still had some misses. Key role, what played a key role in the United States recovery from the Great Depression? The answer is, I'm going to jump straight to the answer, the wartime mobilization of the economy. Or the way I said it, so that I didn't give you the exact answer, was World War II fixed the Depression. The war fixed the Depression. Wartime mobilization of the economy. I gave you that answer, and we still, I don't know, we missed it, right? So maybe what you need to take is that what Swanson says right before the test matters.
And that was also a key vocabulary term that was on your cards and in your booklet. So you should be able to say, okay, we have talked about laissez-faire, but it really didn't go with the Great Depression. The shift of the industry to agriculture, okay, get it, but not really related to the Great Depression. The wartime was, okay, so moving and shifting in the wartime, okay. And the return of isolationist, the foreign policy, really has nothing to do with what this question is asking for. So you should have been able to choose.
Now, so she walked you through everything I was going to walk you through because I said kind of something bad. I don't want you to only rely on what Swanson says in the review right before the test, because Swanson does not have an EOC review. Swanson literally does not know what's on the EOC review. So yeah, sometimes wink, wink, man, I really wish you listened to what's coming out of my mouth, but that's not your only study strategy because you won't always have that right before the test. But I will say on this one, I kind of all but gave you the answer and we still had some misses.
And that one should have really jumped out at you. But
Roosevelt's Lend-Lease policy is best described as. So first of all, what is Lend-Lease? Okay, big term, right? This is where the cards are going to help us with the questions. What's the term itself actually mean? Huh? Lend-Lease policy.
Is that where they lended the weapons to them?
We lent weapons to who?
Germany.
To who?
so who?
They were fighting against Germany.
Those who were fighting against Germany.
Yeah, that's what I
Good.
meant.
All right, that's a good working definition of a Lend-Lease. Now, next question. Who were our allies? Who are we lending this equipment to?
Right.
Europeans, but which exact countries? France is correct. Huh? The UK, England,
Russia.
Russia and China on the tertiary, okay? France, England, Russia and China on the tertiary. I'll buy it. Next question. Who are our stinking enemies?
Germany.
And?
Japan.
Japan.
Okay. Therefore, it is not a protection policy in support of Japan.
That's the one I
Burn,
picked.
right? That's an enemy. An aid policy for nations fighting against the Soviet Union? No, you just told me they're one of our friends. Okay, so it can't be that one. An economic protection policy in support of Italy. Italy is actually in the Axis powers as well. Italy is an enemy. You didn't say that just now. Italy is an enemy. Okay, by the country elimination alone, I can get to an aid policy for nations fighting against the biggest baddies around, Nazi Germany.
And honestly, if you knew that definition from those cards, like TK just said, when we were lending it to who, and we said Germany, if you can make those connections, that should have been a jump out, automatic correct answer.
So again, for the grumbles, man, why did I make a 68? Well, one or two of these
Okay, I
questions.
know.
I'm not
This
talking about
is-
you, I'm talking about a lot of you.
I felt so good.
If you felt like the test was against
Like,
you,
preach to me?
here's, if you felt like the test was out to get you, I'm explaining opposite. And then I also heard one other thing, and I'm, non-attributional. Someone said, man, I studied for this test and I still did poorly. I'm never going to study again. That's a terrible attitude,
Yes.
right? The test wasn't out to get you, your teacher. And so therefore, here we are kind of teaching you how to look at the test. Couple more. Okay, these are some biggies. Nate, pick your head up for me. Hunter, wake up, do push-ups or something. All right, some of you see something that requires some extra reading, and you're done, son. Right? Man, reading, I'll just pick C, right? I don't like reading.
C is always the best choice.
Or your text-to-speech, maybe it's so long that you've thrown away, you tune it out because it takes 5 seconds to read instead of 1. I don't know, right? We can't be scared of passages. The big test, the EOC will have passages. Now, what we need to do is use the passage. Because actually, a lot of times, just like with a map, I say the answer's right in front of you, even if you don't understand the question. A lot of times in a passage, the answer can be right in front of you, even if you don't really understand the big topic of the question. So let's go ahead and look at this. Excerpt from Executive Order 9066. What is that related to? Actual, huh?
Japanese spy.
Japanese American internment camps. Madeline said Japanese spying, right? That peels it back even more. Excellent. You're on the right track. Okay, my brain is now ready to read this excerpt because I know what it's about. I'm not going to read this excerpt right now. I'm going to actually jump to the question and say, what was Roosevelt's justification for issuing the executive order? Here's what the student put. Here's what the student put. Roosevelt believed the order was necessary to clear large areas for new military bases. Did that phrase come out of my mouth?
That's the one I picked up.
Never did I ever say anything about new military bases. So a big thing is, if I didn't say it, it's definitely not the answer, right?
But you could have chosen that answer because in that first little line in that excerpt it says prescribed military areas. So
Okay.
I could very well see why you would have chosen that. However, if you would have picked up the executive order of 9066, and like Red said, she made that connection to the Japanese, then honestly, to be able to read that executive order and answer that question was not even really necessary because it was an excerpt from that order, which you already knew. Does that make sense? So that one should have been easy for you to be able to say, oh, yeah, that was protection against the Japanese spies, totally.
And you might grab the word Japanese here. It wasn't Japanese bombers. We didn't think that
That's
they were coming to the mainland. We thought that spies in the mainland might be harmful to our country. Okay, so we're just peeling back. I got one or two more here.
Heads up,
At least two more.
now I don't
All right.
have hundreds
Can
in
you
here.
go to the map one?
Huh?
The map.
I don't know if I have that one screen grabbed, but if you got a specific question, we can talk about it a little bit later. Purpose of the Espionage Act that Wilson signed into law. Student put to increase congressional support for the war effort. You got to remember, we were all in on the war already, right? After the two big events, Lusitania and Zimmerman telegraph, there's congressional support for the war effort. So that's not why he would put that into play, not at all. To improve the United States' military intelligence, well, espionage, intelligence, maybe I'm hanging, okay, I see a connection there. Let's make sure that might be the best answer. To discover communists working in the government or to limit public criticism of the government's acts. I got to know that this is what was one of the fundamental pieces of it. We talked about Eugene Debs, speeches, prison. Just that is where you guys say, well, this isn't exactly like the card. Oh, it's pretty close to just like the card. Would have got, knowing the card would have got you to the answer. So again, the distractor here, it wasn't about congressional support. It was about criticism. And then for the sake of time, I grabbed a whole lot of them because you guys were, dang, did I miss the one that I wanted to get? I got one that I wanted to talk about. Maybe I didn't screen grab it. Related to women's rights. It was a passage for Susan B. Anthony. And a couple of you put the Equal Rights Amendment, which is abbreviated ERA. That's a real thing. It's related to women. It's not this part of history, and I didn't talk about it.
That's right.
So if your brain, and this is where maybe your extra reading is actually slightly harmful. If your brain grabbed an Equal Rights Amendment and you decided that that fits women's rights and you click that answer, you're wrong because that's not what we were talking about. The right answer is the 19th Amendment, which is pretty verbatim memorization, right? 19th equals women's rights to vote. And that's what that one particular question was about. So if you have any specific questions, on and on and on and on, I can open your test. We can talk about your test. This was just to bring some larger strategies to the whole class. Okay, larger strategy to the whole class.
And I did hear what was the class average. I think somebody asked that. At one point, it was at 75
This
points,
class, I got to memorize.
something,
This
so-
class was a 72, and fourth class was a 70.
What?
This class was a 70, and both classes should be proud of that. The fact that it starts with a 7 got me clicking like this.
Yes.
We almost made it to our goal.
Almost made it.
So let's rally for Unit 5, okay? Let's rally for Unit 5.
Can we go for a lower
Maybe
average?
like a 40.
Now I want you to rise to the expectation.
No,
You can
we
do it.
no.
You can do it.
Everybody
Y'all
put
are
it
almost
down.
there.
Like a 40 something, something.
All
Maybe
right,
like
check it
a
out.
7.
So new unit, new vocab. Now just hold your pens. Hold your pens, hold your pens. I merely want you to know the big words of this unit. Okay? I don't want you cramming vocab just because it's like, wow, it's on the screen. I want you to know the words of the new unit. okay? We will get to each vocab term in time. And then like, don't wait till the last minute here, but I will print these out for you come next week because I want you to start doing your own flashcards, okay? So paying attention only to the left-hand side. Don't burn me by writing your pencils, really just burning yourself. Pay attention to the left-hand side. I'm simply going to say the words. I want your brain to start cataloging them so that when we return to it in the flow of the lesson, you'll be like, ha, that is definitely a key term. This is where we're going. Cold War, Truman Doctrine, Containment, Marshall Plan, Korean War, GI Bill, integration policies specifically related to President Truman. Okay, so we're headed towards civil rights. McCarthyism, that connects to communists. The National Interstate and Defense Highway Act. How in the world do we get these highways that we all drive on all the time? Brown versus Board of Education, one of those landmark civil rights cases. Sputnik and the space race. Sputnik is related to the space race, so that's an interesting topic students really get into. Braylee's got some favorite thoughts about the space race. U.S. involvement in Cuba. There's several little sub-points there. So U.S. involvement in Vietnam, i.e. the Vietnam War. Gulf of Tonkin resolution, domestic issues, international issues, Civil Rights Act of 1964. Okay, so we have several terms that connect to civil rights. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy, JFK. Extremely interesting. We will not have time to talk about it as much as I want to, but definitely one of those intriguing historical points that remains really interesting to this day. Johnson's Great Society, the invention of television, and Lucille Ball, who financed my car this weekend. Presidential debates of 1960. Now, must be significant if it's a full-on vocab term, right? Because presidents have always debated each other. Why does this one matter? The Civil Rights Movement, which is probably the broad umbrella for several things we've talked about. Moon landing fits the space race. Martin Luther King Jr., a key personality. His letter from Birmingham jail and I Have a Dream speech. So 3 cards related to one man, packaged under civil rights. We're going to have a big civil rights conversation.
Very influential.
Cesar Chavez, probably a less known name that is very important in civil rights as well, especially Hispanic rights. Robert F. Kennedy, another Kennedy. The Tet Offensive relates to the Vietnam War. The 1968 presidential election. Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, ripping off a couple presidents in a row. Diplomatic relations with China. The War Powers Act. The Camp David Accords. The end of the U.S. in Vietnam. 1979 Iranian hostage crisis. Environmental Protection Organization, National Organization for Women. So we're still talking women's rights. Definitely don't have equal pay yet. The Watergate Scandal, another really sexy thing that we won't have too much time to talk about, but we'll get to it. Clinton's impeachment, the second impeached president in U.S. history. The collapse of the Soviet Union, and this is the first time that we can accurately call them Russia. Okay? Anytime we've ever said Russia up to this point, that's actually inaccurate, but the collapse of the Soviet Union. War on terrorism, and I'm actually going to reference our September 11th class. We've kind of already driven into that one a little bit, so we'll save some time there by having already had that class. Reaganomics, my man, Ronald Reagan and his Reaganomics. The influence of technology in the presidential election of 2008, which brought us America's first African-American president, Barack Obama. So these are the terms that we are diving into. Right? Obviously, that is not teaching them to you. That is introducing them to you. What we are going to do after our bathroom break is we are going to play we're going to play cards for a minute to get familiar with this week's terms.
Okay.
Instead of, whoa, whole fat deck, I really don't even know what I'm looking at, we're going to play inner outer circle with however many we got. We'll talk in just a second. And we're going to play inner outer circle with the terms of this week. I'm going to round that out at whatever time I decide. I'm going to teach you a little bit. We're going to call it lunch, and we're going to call that Monday. How's that sound?
Hey, you stand right here?
We did it outside, and there's the 2 circles that kind of rotated around each other. Yep, that's what we're going to do. So let's go to the bathroom.
Can I get my technology?
You may use your technology as long as you don't delay to put it back where it belongs when we're done.
Ow.
This one. Can I grab a